as my beloved and I stand in the dazzling white light of purity, streaming forth the perfection of God and the divine blueprint of life, we behold that purity within your own heart. For it is for that purpose that we, the Elohim of purity and of the white fire core of being, hold as the Immaculate Conception, known by many, held by the Mother Flame, so that you might have the Kundalini fire ablaze within your own spiritual centers of being, to appropriate the patterns of life that allow you to bring forth God in actuality. But to do so, you must have the purity of your own heart flame ablaze, displacing all of the outer vehicles of consciousness that still remain tethered to the unreality of the not-self, that which is born out of the human consciousness, that which does not rise to the level of the vibration to allow for the purity of God to take hold, to multiply and magnify the very presence of God. You have understood that in your vehicles of consciousness there is a flame, but have you become that flame? Have you allowed entree of that flame into your spiritual centers to become a whirling disk of light that throws off all vibrations that are unlike the purity of the flame upon the altar of your heart? Have you invoked the disciplines into the very ritual of life that you live, taking up the sword of truth of cosmic law, recognizing that you are responsible for all that comes your way, and thus you deal with life spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically. For all of these vehicles must be in alignment with the mighty I Am presence and the heart flame that allows for the pouring forth of the divine archetypal pattern of your mighty I Am presence to establish the very life that you were intended to live. Blessed ones, you may decry your returning karma, but it will return, and it must be balanced. You may try to excuse the habitual activities in your life that you know are not in keeping with the life of a Christ. You may try to feign ignorance to the law, but within your heart flame you know the law already. Perhaps you have put up levels of Maya and illusion as stumbling blocks of your consciousness so that you will not remember. But I promise you, in the purity of your heart flame is written the record of cosmic law that is intended for you to live. This is why when you hear certain teaching of cosmic law and instruction upon the disciplines of maintaining that law, you know instantly, yes, this is true. But carrying that out is another whole initiation entirely. And that is where we, the Elohim of purity, come into opportunity for you. For we stand holding the purity of the flame of God that you are, and allowing for our vision to be more powerful than the puny consciousness that is born out of unreality. And if you will but allow your heart flame to commune in our ray of purity, you will discover for yourself how glorious it is to maintain life in a realm of consciousness where you need not always look over your shoulder for fear you have committed some transgression against life. And should you, by accident, you have the tools of cosmic law with which to erase, transmute, and consume those errors on the instant. And that is part of the process of you gaining your mastery and attainment, understanding what you may accomplish by the wise use of the light of God. When my beloved and I stand in the earth, pouring forth the white fire core of being as a ray of white purity from the great central sun, and there is a circle and sword of blue flame that circles the earth round about to consume the hatred, the malice, the mayhem, the unreality in any form. It is a day, blessed ones, that changes the very balance upon the earth. And so there is a judicious allotment of that light, and what we as Elohim can consume as negativity at any given time, so that the earth will maintain the full balance required for the sons and daughters of God to maintain life. So you see, blessed ones, just as you have already heard, the Elohim are concerned with your own individual flame. But an even greater concern is the earth itself, so that life may continue to flourish, that the purity of the intent of God may establish upon the earth all that is intended to come into manifestation. Most assuredly, the earth is intended to be a golden age. But that will only come to pass when there is the release of the Edenic pattern and blueprint of life afforded by the mind of God from out the great central sun, eons ago, when first the earth was established. It was never intended that the life streams of earth would take so long to win their victory. But here we are, together, you and we, as cosmic beings of light, forging on to a victory that is assured. Your part is to become a pillar of light, to allow for the white fire of your own mighty I Am presence to be released through the spinal altars and connect each of your spiritual centers in the fullness of the heart flame of the mighty I Am presence that galvanizes an onrush of light constantly, so that you are always responsive to the will of God, the wisdom of God in illumination's flame, the desire of the heart of God, and drawing forth all that is pure, all that is divinely charged with the light of your God presence, so that when there is the collective whole of the consciousness of the sons and daughters of God at the level of the mental, emotional, and physical vehicles that reverberates through the earth, you begin to see the patterns of elemental forces of nature respond and take on the purity of your consciousness. And those forms of life, miscreated over time, begin to disappear as they should, and go back into the universal sea of life, so that those that are even purer forms may come to the fore, to nourish the land, to bring about a greater beauty and wholeness. The same is true of your own vehicles of consciousness you wear. You may do all manner of exercise within your life to bring about the perfect physical body, eating the right foods, exercising it, preening it. But that will not bring about the purity that you desire. If your thoughts are impure, if your emotional body is in turmoil, if your spiritual bodies are not disseminating the light of purity into those outer vehicles, then, blessed ones, you will see the difference. For when the light is present, there is a glow about the physical body. There is a deep peace within the emotional body. There is clarity of mind. And when you are called to respond to any activity of life, streaming forth on the instant are the filigree threads of the Buddhic consciousness, ever so responsive to the heart flame that you have established as your touchstone of reality in life. It is ever pure, ever sanctified by the mighty I Am presence. And when those initiations come to the fore and you are tested, and you think, surely I have gone to the very limits of what I can do, your presence will then step forth and make up the difference for the victory to be won. But you will be required to give all that you are, every erg of energy. To do so requires there be sufficient purity upon your heart, resonating through all of your intent, your purpose, your activity. The very substance of life must contain the white fire of purity, for it builds all that is to manifest. Blessed ones, you are in the process during this cycle of building the Shield of Elohim for your wise use. You are being given the dispensation and opportunity to draw forth from the 12 Mighty Elohim and their divine complements all that you require to establish this glorious shield that will activate at any time your attention is drawn to it, to connect you with a particular ray of God consciousness in the realm of the Elohim. And elemental life will respond to that communion that you stream forth in consciousness. But there must be purity in your world for that connection to take hold. Else it will be an exercise that you continue to practice until you have mastered these outer vehicles sufficiently to be a chalice to receive it. Until such time, you can be assured that the Shield of Elohim is waiting for you to fully activate the resounding intonation of all of the Elohim at your command. Consider the magnitude, blessed ones. This is why purity in your life is demanded by the karmic board, for you to have such access to power from cosmic dimensions. You have the ability to draw forth all that you require to fulfill your life. Step by step, you have been learning how to maneuver through life the best you could. But now you are given the opportunity to go beyond just the very best that you can, for the you that you have been operating from is the outer consciousness. The you that you are being called to activate is the mighty I Am presence, so that in the fullness of all of the remaining cycle of this incarnation, you can move mountains of adversity. You can anchor a pillar of light in your own life that can change the course of the earth and ultimately put all on track for a golden age. There have been times in past civilizations when the masses have looked to only one individual to lead them out of bondage, or to carry them into a new state of being. Blessed ones, this cycle, this time, here and now, is for you, each one, to multiply your talents, to galvanize the light of your mighty I Am presence, and put away the childish things that have kept you in a state of limitation, so that you might have the fullness of the power of Elohim, ready to respond on the instant when you require, desire, or have the need. Blessed ones, the puny outer vehicles, built up of the clay of the earth, the water of the motions, the air of the mind, all of these things, blessed ones, the fire element, all were intended to be vehicles of expression that would be a temple to house the living flame of God, and to allow that flame access to those dimensions. Has your heart flame activated sufficient purity to even want to touch the earth element, the water element, the fire, the air, and then moving into Akasha? There must be the will of God burning brightly upon the altar of your heart. Illumination's flame must be expanded, as you have already heard explained by the Elohim of the first and second ray. When the desiring for God becomes the desiring of God within your life, the love of God is paramount in all of your affairs. And when they are held in purity, never distorted, degraded, used wisely to the good of the will of God, allowing for the purity to be maintained to the manifestation of whatever creativity is to come to the fore, then, blessed ones, you have the making of an ascended master to come. And blessed hearts, we need sons and daughters of God willing to go through the paces of initiation to make themselves ready for the ascension in the light. Do you suppose that those now ascended while in incarnation faced any lesser states than you? There were turmoils, there were initiations and cycles, there were disappointments, there was pain and struggle. All of the areas of life, whatever label you may put upon it, were faced. They are ascended now because they overcame. They held to the purity of the flame upon the altar of that heart that allowed them to see through the Maya and illusion, to make the right discernment in their life, so that they chose the higher path, not the easier path, not the more satisfying to the emotional body or the human desires, but that which was holding to the truth of their own God identity. And that I will leave to Cyclopeia, for there is much to speak on relative to the truth of your identity When the purity of the white fire of God consciousness comes upon you, it consumes on the instant all that is unreal. It oft times creates discomfort in the physical body, even shattering the emotional body. When there has been a tenacious hold of human consciousness upon that unreality. But as quickly as that unreality is gone, dissipated to be no more upon the screen of life, you begin to heal, and you begin to realize the presence of God is the all in all of your being. That is what counts. That is the fullness of life that must be experienced. And you, blessed hearts, are ready to enter into that white fire core of being. Are you fearless enough? Do you trust your presence enough? Do you have enough purity already in your life to let go and let God be the fullness of life within you? Blessed hearts, the light of God pours forth from out the great central sun in the magnitude befitting the golden age to come forth, even here and now, if the consciousness of the sons and daughters of God would appropriate all that is streaming forth. But we understand that there are limitations within the psyche of the masses of the sons and daughters of God, save the select few. And it is to those few that we look to have the victory, to absorb into their consciousness the purity of God. So as we, the Elohim of purity, release our momentum into the earth, won't you hold the vision for the earth as a pure star, radiating the sun of the light of God throughout the cosmos? Won't you hold that same vision for your own lifestream, so that you, as the mighty I Am Presence, will forever be that glorious star of white purity at the core, radiating forth and sending forth the rays of God light to benefit God in all of life? Will you, blessed ones, hold fast to your heart flame, not your emotional body, not your mental body and the intellect, not the physical body and all of its habits, but the heart flame that is pure. Hold to it. Breathe upon it. Allow for the Kundalini fires of the white fire of the Mother Light to expand and expand and expand, and ultimately it is expanding the threefold flame of the heart. It is spinning the spiritual centers of your being, and it is accelerating you into the Christ light, and the virtues of the Christ will be your greatest test. So mark my word, discipline these outer vehicles so that you will not lose sight of those victories that are assured when the light of God comes forth. Let the streaming forth of the white fire of the ray of purity come forth from out the great central sun and descend into the earth, accelerating the purity and the kundalini fires of those worthy disciples upon the path, striking from their chakras all overlays of unreality, so that they may have the purity and the divine intent of their mighty I Am presence, now and forever. Go forth, angels of purity, perform the divine work for cosmic purpose.